Alright guys, so we are going to go over what I would consider a pretty solid starting type build for warriors entering the game new in 2023. I'm not going to say it's going to be the most OP meta build. It's not going to be something that everyone uses. It's very unique. It's something I've used for a long time and kind of modified um, as I played the game off and on. And part of this really stems from the Roman guild that I had built a while back, where we had a military system and we had warrior groups that would go and fight. And the basic theory was that warriors, some skills and things that people don't use on warriors and meta groups, are stronger when you're in warrior groups. So if you didn't want a healer or something on your team, you could say go might generation and auto attack with your allies, and as long as you're together, you could regen health. But if you're not able to attack and you still needed healing, then shout heals become a lot more powerful. Because take for instance, Shake It Off right now is doing 2,000 healing, and you're getting that over 20 seconds, so you're getting 1,000 health every 10 seconds, which isn't really that great. But if you have 5 warriors, you're getting 5,000 health every 10 seconds, which is pretty nice. It's not terrible. And then you add more and more shouts, you get more and more abilities. But we're going to take that a step farther. So this is the current setup. Riot did kind of mess up my game plan with changing lesser endure pain, but take no damage from attacks. You're still acceptable conditions and control effects. But they did add on a barrier. They did add, have vigor still on it. Um, we still have the duration increase we can do here. But in general, this is going to be a very solid, just kind of general warrior setup for the group play potential. And you can still use this for solo play as well. So we'll go through the basic traits real quick. So the first trait line, defense. You get protection when you use a heal skill. This isn't really that important, but it does give you a little bit of bonus damage, 1% increased bonus damage. We're doing Call of the Week because you get that fumble from enemies, which is pretty decent, but you can go Dogged March if you have, crippling effects and stuff you want to have to deal with, or you can reflect missiles if you want as well. If you're in a warrior group, you can alternate your shield stance to reflect the missiles. Um, that's also viable. Now, in this build setup, Adrenal Health is your main heal skill. You can see that we have right at 7,000 health over 15 seconds. So you're getting about 400, 500, 450, something like that, health per second, as long as you keep that activated. That is your main healing skill. So 15 seconds, you're getting 7,000 health, which is similar to uh, mending. If you were going to use that, it's pretty much the same healing effect as mending. Now, this all depends on the weapon types that you want to run. If you have weapons that can generate more might, such as a great sword or the rifle, because the rifle can generate 3 might or something per auto, the great sword can generate 2 might per auto. With things like that, the phalanx strength can give you more total healing, and even in warrior groups, might generation can give you more total healing as long as everyone can continuously attack, and that isn't always the case. So this is a more well-rounded, sturdy version that's kind of unique. All right, so next we have Lesser Endure Pain. So they nerfed this. It used to be like a 60-second cooldown, but now it is used when you use your elite skill. So when you're playing by yourself or with your groups, I'm doing Signet of Rage. So we're getting a 48-second cooldown, which is, actually faster than the real skill itself. But in the past, I would use Battle Standard, um, because you used to be able to say you have 5 warriors, and if people go down, you don't have to waste time trying to revive anybody, because you can just toss this banner down, and then they all get revived, and you're all good to go. In this setup, you could still basically revive people, but you're going to have to use your damage immunities to revive instead of the banner. Or you can take the banner, and when you take the banner, you will lose your Fury generation, at which point you need to change from Lesser Signet of Might to Opportunist, and this will give you all of your Fury that you need for your character for the most part on this build, as well as give you additional Adrenaline, and it gives you a Fury and Adrenaline when you immobilize a target, and we're using Sword, Shield, and Bow, so you have, plenty of immobilizations for the most part. And then we have Lesser Signet of Might selected on this version with the Signet of Rage, because this will activate when you get people below 50%, and it's going to give you that 100 ferocity. But as long as you have this and Signet of Rage on your build, as the fight goes on, you will get to 500 ferocity bonus, and in the setup of the build right here, it's about a 30% damage increase on crit hits, which is a pretty solid, significant bonus, and I prefer to have that over the battle standard for the most part. Now here we have Resolution, so when you have Resolution, you get 10% damage reduction, and Resolution gives you 33% incoming condition duration, or condition damage decrease, which is really strong. And then we have Last Stand. This is going to give you your Vigor and your Barrier when you use this, as well as an additional increase to your stance duration. Now, if you're not in a warrior group and you want to use the more defensive version of this build like we have here, you can swap this to Cleansing Ire to get rid of more conditions, because you won't have the warriors to help you off with Shake It Off. If you need more stability, you can go Stalwart Strength, and this will give you 7 seconds of stability. It has a 1/4 of a second cooldown, and so you can proc that with your Shield Bash, and you can proc it with your Bow Attack, which is going to give you the bulk of your damage stuff here. Then we got Tactics. So now, periodically when you use a burst skill, you're going to heal your allies for 1600, as well as give them Might, which will heal you for some more. So let's just go ahead and round it to like 2000, okay? And that can happen every 10 seconds. So now you're looking at, 2000 every 10 seconds, potentially. And then you'll have the healing from this. So that's basically your heal skills. That's basically where all your healing's coming from for the most part. And then the rest is going to be all situational stuff that you can use in battle. So deal increased strike damage for every boon on you. This goes up to 6%. You can have, up to 6 boons depending on how you're playing the character or what sigils you want to run. Then you have Shake It Off. This is going to give you a stun break, as well as remove conditions, and also a 2000 heal. You have 3 Shake It Offs, and then you can do both of these, so you can get a Shake It Off every 10 seconds, which is going to give you, 2000 health every 10 seconds, as long as they activate. And then we have Vigorous Shouts for increased healing, and also reducing the recharge on our shouts. If you're in a group of warriors and you don't really care about having a bunch more healing, then you can swap over to Martial Cadence, and this will allow you to have infinite quickness and not have to use infinite quickness on your sigils, which we'll see here in a little bit. Basically, though, you can see it gives us 2 seconds of quickness. When we select it, though, and we look over here, it's 4 seconds of quickness. And this is AoE, which means that it's going to proc every 10 seconds, but if you have 5 warriors in a group, you're going to get 20 seconds of quickness, pretty much infinitely having quickness, and then you can swap your weapon sigils for something else. If not, you can go for Vigorous Shouts, and that'll heal you for a decent bit. Or if you really want to, you can go Phalanx Strength, and you can use Fire Fields or whatever else that you want to get Might when you get hit, and then heal. But I don't really think it's necessarily the best thing in the world. And then the third trait line on this setup here is for the damage. So right now we have Arms. When you use a burst skill, you get Fury. So as long as you have this and you have Signet of Rage going, you're going to be able to get Infinite Fury. Then we have Lesser Signet of Might, so as long as you have this and Signet of Rage, you can get that 30% increased crit damage. If you want to get absolutely 100% all of your condition duration, you can go Wounding Precision, but it's not necessary. Then we gain additional condition damage when you gain Fury. Then we have Sundering Burst, which will give you vulnerability when you use a burst skill, and if you get a crit hit, you get twice as much vulnerability. You can use Blade Master, but the damage increase isn't really that drastic on the damage version of the build, so I don't expect it to be that drastic on this version of the build. You can also do Unexpecting Foe if you really want to, but this is going to require you to have a group of warriors to play with, and also mainly works with the Fear Me. So you'd want to immobilize your target, hit them with the Fear, and that gives you 5 seconds of basically guaranteed crit, because it gives you that 50% increased crit chance. That's annoying. Alright, so that can give you the 50% increased crit chance. Now, if we go and look over here at our stats, we are floating at 37% crit chance at the moment, and then when we have Fury, it's going up to 67. So if you don't want to have Fury at all, you can always do that, but I can explain how this works. Basically, by yourself, this is just kind of a interesting skill to have. I've never really bothered using Fear Me on any of my builds in the past because I always thought it was kind of... Oh, welcome to the chat. We're just going over kind of a starting warrior build that I've put together. There's a couple of versions with it, and then I'm going to post this online here in a little bit. So you're welcome to stay while I'm recording this or whatever, but I'm just talking about it here for a second. I never really bothered using Fear Me for a little bit because I never thought it was super amazing of a skill in the past, and mainly because of the long cooldown. But as we were talking about just a second ago, if you have warriors that are in groups, some of these skills are actually better than they seem. In this setup, we're basically using this as a secondary Endure Pain, because any mobs of creatures and stuff that are kind of around us, we can use this for 5 seconds of fear, and then our sword allows us to immobilize them, and so we can basically just get free damage. And so it's going to really take a lot of pressure off of newer players. And then when you have any warrior groups like we used to have, you can get 25 seconds of fear just rotating this ability, which means your warrior groups are going to have, well, one, it can help break defiance bars, but two, it can completely shut down just groups of enemies because you get 25 seconds of fear, and there's not a whole lot they can do about it. Then we have Endure Pain, so it's just the basic Endure Pain. Makes it to where you don't take damage. Now, with this, the Endure Pain in our traits, and then the Defiant Stance, which is probably my favorite combo, especially in PvP stuff, you get 15 seconds of damage immunity, which is pretty good. Quite a lot of people in PvP and stuff don't really pay attention to all those either, so, but you already have a massive HP pool, so popping Defiant Stance, it just regens all your health, and basically in PvE, you're just going to be able to stand in a lot of areas that people can't, and just tank the damage, which is really nice. And then the Signet of Rage, this is basically what we're using now. The banner, I don't think it's really worth it that much anymore. If we do it, it's not going to be the biggest thing in the world. But yeah, if you get your group of warriors together and you want to use Fear Me a whole lot more, then you can go Unsuspecting Foe, and then you can just save all those stats and get 100% crit chance. But this is actually a pretty durable build, and you got your shield stance, so if you need, any more kind of protection when you're fighting creatures, it's, there to help you out. So basically, you get 15 seconds of damage immunity with these 3 skills. Then you'll get an additional 5 with Fear Me, so you're already setting at 20 seconds. And then if you have any allies with you that are using this build, you can get an additional 20 seconds of Fear. So you're setting at 40 seconds. And then even at the 20-second mark, you're pretty close to popping Defiant Stance again. And then with allies, you're going to be able to pop Defiant Stance again, which is going to give you another 5 seconds. So you're setting at 45 seconds, which is just about enough to pop Signet of Rage again, which is going to give you damage immunity again for another 5 seconds, which puts you at, 50 seconds or something like that, which then means that you have about 10 seconds before you can pop Endure Pain again for 5 seconds. And between all of this, you still have access to your shield stance. So it's sort of, kind of, not exactly, but kind of sort of is 100% damage immunity. Kind of. I mean, things can go wrong, but it's very friendly if you do happen to mess up. And also on this, so the stuff that we're using right now, on the sword we have the quickness sigil on crit. So when you crit, you get 3 seconds of quickness. And on the shield, we have the 5 seconds when you disable a foe. Now, if you want to change this and say you're playing with a group of players and you don't necessarily care about having the maximum amount of healing on Shake It Off, you can go for Martial's Cadence. Then your group will get infinite quickness just by fighting next to each other. And you can free up these sigils for other things. And then even if you don't want to run both of these, you can just run one if you want. I just happen to like a lot of extra quickness on my character. I'm thinking about going for the superior sigil of Hydromancy. And now you might be asking me, why exactly would you care about having this on a warrior? Mainly because we have quite a few skills, like if you're in a PvP, for instance, that cover up your conditions. So if they try to remove them, it's a lot harder. But also you get 2 seconds of chill, which gives them a 66% speed debuff. And then you have also, I think for every 1.6 seconds of chill, only 1 second of cooldown passes, or something along those lines. And then when you're in a group of warriors, this has a 9-second cooldown, you'll notice. But in a group of warriors, you're going to have 5 of these, which means you'll get at minimum 10 seconds of chill, which basically means infinite chill. Infinite 66% slows, infinite longer cooldowns on enemies that are around you. But this is also just on the sigil itself, and we have 100% additional condition duration on our character. So, if you put this on here, as long as everything works out the way I think it does, you should get 4 seconds of chill instead of 2 seconds of chill, which alone is pretty strong by itself. So you should be able to get chill every time that you swap your weapon for a decent duration. And as long as you have something like this 5 seconds of quickness, you're going to be able to land your abilities a lot easier. Even if they remove the immobilization that you apply to them, they're going to have that 66% slow. So that's the basic idea with that. We're going to be replacing that pretty soon. On the bow, we have increased burning duration by 20%, and we have the increased condition duration by 10%. This was mainly because I wanted to get my burning up to like 90 or 100%. It was kind of bothering me. You don't need to have the condition bonuses on here if you don't want, but I just really like having a super high condition duration. For armor, we're doing celestial gear, so if you're starting the game and you want to buy a level 80 boost, you're going to get celestial gear anyway, and it gives you access to basically all of the stats that you could want in the game. And even if you want to go up to ascended gear or whatever in this, you can transfer it over to your other characters and use it fairly easily, so it's not too bad. And with the bow, sword, shield, or bow, sword, they're hybrid weapons, so they can make use of most of the stats that are on here. If you want to use something like a rifle or whatever else, then you're free to do that, but it won't take advantage of all the condition damage that you're going to be able to put out with those weapon types that we have here. And then we have the Superior Ruin of the Tempest, which is the same ruin that we used in the past for the Ultimate Warrior build. Um, they may have nerfed the trait that we were using for the Ultimate Warrior build, so we can't get the bonus armor and stuff anymore. But we're getting 25% increased cooldown, or increased condition duration here. And we're getting bonuses to all stats, and we heal allies within 360 radius after breaking a stun. And this is where we're getting in. We have Shake It Off here, so you can break a stun for yourself and all your allies and heal them for 2,000. And the Ruin of the Tempest, when you break the stun, will heal you for 1,100. So you can heal your teammates for about 3,100 or so every time that you break a stun, or you can pop it to just remove the conditions. And then, as I said before, once you have 5 warriors, you're going to be able to have 5 of these go off for, 2,000 to 3,000 health. So you're looking at 10,000 to 15,000 health pretty much every 10 seconds, which is a really, really strong heal to have on top of the infinite damage immunity that you're going to have with this build anyway. And then let's say that you want to go and you want to farm. You want to go farm some creatures or be a part of a group, and they want a DPS, and you don't have your warrior group. First off, one more change that we could do here before we go to the second build setup. The Vigorous Shouts, you can keep it or you can not for this next piece. But if you're playing solo and you don't have a warrior group and you don't want to have Shake It Off, you can swap this out for Banner of Defense. And this is basically going to heal you for like 1,500 or something over 10 seconds. So it's a little bit... hold up. No, it's going to heal you for like 2,700. Okay, so it's going to heal you for more than what Shake It Off will heal you for. And it'll give you Aegeus, which will block one attack. And it gives you access to Light Auroras, which can Condi Cleanse, as well as something else I can't recall. But it's really strong if you use that with this if you want. But when you're in a group of warriors, Shake It Off is going to out-heal the Banner of Defense because it's just going to have the more healing just because there's a group. And regen you can get from all kinds of places, so that's how you do it. Now, if we're going for a damage build setup, this right here is all raw damage. And you start off with a base of 50% crit. You can get that up to 80, and then if you pop this, you get it up to 100 for a short duration. Okay? Now, this right here has no healing for the most part. All that, you have to rely on a team, but extremely high damage. You can use sword, shield, you can use sword, and bow. All this is hybrid. And so the first thing you have is strength. Dodge rolls deal damage and they give you might in case you need a dodge roll. Peak performance is giving you 15% increased damage. We're using mending and the kick, which are going to give you pretty much infinite upkeep of this ability for the most part. And we have burst skills, restore endurance. You're going to be able to use quite a lot of those. Forceful Greatsword is giving us might and power and might on crit attacks, which is really solid. Then might grants you more power, and your crit hit is increased. So we're getting increased crit chance from here and here, which is how we got the 50%. And then we go Berserker's Power, so when we use a burst skill, we get a buff for 21% bonus damage. So you can already see the 15% plus the 21% here. You're already looking at 30, 36%. And then on top of that, you're getting this bonus damage here. So that's really powerful. Second, we have Discipline, which gives us the decreased weapon swap time. And then we're gaining Adrenaline on weapon swap. And you can go for Crack Shot if you want to stay more range focused with this build. You can go Warrior Sprint if you want to have more overall damage from both weapon sets, or you want more mobility and run speed on your character. You get weapon swaps, recharge faster. And you can do the conditions when you swap weapons. This will give you about the same condition removal as Shake It Off. Or you can go Destruction of the Empowered, which gives you bonus damage based on the boons that are on the enemy. And then we do Burst Mastery, so this gives you another damage buff plus a Swiftness, which can proc the Warrior Sprint and gives you basically an easier time swapping to burst with the other ability and weapon without having to regen as much adrenaline if you don't want it. Now, if you do want to take Axe Mastery instead, this can increase your basically your total ferocity damage by like 8% or something, which is slightly more than Burst Mastery, but I feel Burst Mastery is more consistent and gives you more burst skills, so might as well just use it. Then we have Furious Burst still. Increased crit chance, increased fury gain. We have Lesser Might, which is giving us that additional 30% crit damage. Increased condition damage. We get the vulnerability stacks because we don't really need anything else here. Then we got, and also you can apply this a lot more with your weapons. And then we get increased bleed duration, and we get increased critical chance. And then critical hits get adrenaline and increasing condition damage. So with this build, it is sword shield or sword and longbow. Just like the other one, you can use the same runes, same armor, everything that you want. You can hit, 10k sword stabs, jabs, 10, 12k. I've seen probably usually like anywhere between 8 and 12,000 for some of the sword hits. You get generally, if you keep up your rotations and stuff on here, you can get 10,000 or so bleed damage per second. Then on the bow, if you keep your burning and stuff up, you can keep about 10,000 or so burning damage on here per second, which is pretty interesting. And then the arcing arrow, you can get generally about 10,000 or so plus damage on that AoE. And also you can notice this takes 8 seconds to recharge, so you can use these pretty consistently. And then if you use this, and while it's arcing, if you're doing a longer shot, you can have it arc, and then do your kick. You can get that increased bonus damage before it hits, or you can do the arc with some other combination of skills so they all hit at the same time. Or you can just auto attack, because with this, the auto attack on the bow tends to be doing about, 15 to 2,000 damage. 1,500 to 2,000 for the most part. So it hits twice, you're doing about 4,000, and then you're doing, 1 or 2,000 burn on the first auto attack, and then it just keeps adding on from there. So the more that you attack, the more damage that you do, and it works pretty well. So when you're doing, content where you want to have a big DPS kind of character, you might not be doing like 60,000 damage, but you're doing quite a lot for the most part. I mean, you're looking at 8 to 12,000, 30. You could probably pull like 30,000, 40,000 damage, maybe a second, depending. If you go double sword, you can get the torment off of this as well, which is pretty solid. And then if you do the Signet of Fury and Signet of Might before you do like a big burst combo, you can get even higher damage numbers for a short duration, and they have a fairly short cooldown. So all that stuff together works really well. And hopefully you get a chance to kind of use this build or test it out. I actually really like the damage version of the build, but I also really like the damage immunity. But same stats, same everything. Healing your allies and them healing you with stun breaks and stuff. But you can change the ruins if you want on this character. If you're doing the damage build, I just keep them all the same for the most part because it gives us the 100% bleed chance and stuff anyway. So I'm not super worried about it. But if you like this or you want to give it a shot, go ahead. I really hope that y'all try to do the warrior group thing because that's probably one of my favorite things with the warriors. Getting a group of them together and just like going into the fray and not taking any damage. It's great. But yeah, I'm gonna log this off. Y'all guys can test this out and up or down vote. And y'all guys have a good day.